Here's something that surprises a lot of people. Many people point to Tipi Valley as proof that you can simply buy some land, live quietly, and eventually everything works out. But that's only half the story. Today we're going to look at what Tipi Valley actually teaches us, why its history is so unusual, and why it's a mistake to see it as a blueprint for off-grid living. Living on the road, waterways, or off-grid in the UK, Dickie Dread. And today we're on part 31 in the video series, and this is the fourth in a number of case studies using the information we've already covered, and this time we're going to actually do a real one. And we're on chapter 3, living on the land or water, parking up and planning reality. So, case study, Tipi Valley. Tipi Valley in West Wales is often cited as an example of how low impact, land-based living outside conventional housing. It began in the 1970s as a loose gathering of travellers and settlers on rural land, gradually developing into a semi-established community over several decades. What makes it useful as a case study is not that it followed a clear legal route, it did not, but that it shows how land use, planning control and lived practice can interact over time. It is also specific to Wales, where planning policy includes pathways such as One Planet development under Technical Advice Note 6, known as TAN 6. Equivalent routes do not exist in the same form in England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, meaning that similar projects elsewhere may face a more restrictive planning environment. In its early years, the settlement existed largely outside formal planning structures. Residents lived in teepees, caravans and simple structures with minimal infrastructure and a strong emphasis on low-impact living. Like many similar communities of that period, it relied heavily on remoteness, low visibility and a degree of tolerance from local authorities. Over time, however, that position became harder to sustain. As patterns of occupation stabilised and the site became more visible, planning issues emerged. Access, sanitation, environmental impact and residential use all fall within planning control, and long-term occupation tends to trigger scrutiny. Rather than disappearing, Tipi Valley adapted. Elements of the site have moved towards greater formalisation, including clearer land ownership and management structures, partial engagement in planning processes, development of basic infrastructure, and diversification of activities, including workshops and events. This gradual shift reflects a broader pattern seen in long-term off-grid sites. Initially, informality gives way to some kind of negotiation with the planning system. So what this illustrates. The value of Tipi Valley is that it shows three realities often missing from formal guidance. Number one, time matters. Many established sites were not created for a single application or permission. They evolved over years or decades, often beginning in a grey area before becoming more structured. 2. Visibility changes everything. Low impact living can operate below the threshold of enforcement for a period, but once the site becomes established and visible, planning control is likely to follow. 3. There is no single legal route. Unlike a Class Q conversion in England or a One Planet development in Wales, Tipi Valley does not represent a defined legal pathway. It is better understood as a negotiated outcome shaped by context, persistence and adaptation. So the limits of this example. It is important not to overread this case. Tipi Valley exists in a specific place with its own history, geography and local authority context. What was tolerated or negotiated there may not translate elsewhere, particularly under current enforcement approaches. For most readers, it should be seen not as a template but as an illustration of how lived system described in this chapter operates over time. So what can we actually take from this? Tipi Valley shows some communities evolve gradually through persistence, adaptation and changing relationships with the planning system. But it isn't a legal shortcut and it isn't a model that can simply be copied today. If you're trying to live differently, this isn't just about finding somewhere quiet. It's about understanding how the system responds as places become more established over time. In the next video, we'll look at the opposite end of the spectrum, Dale Farm, where increasing scale, visibility and planning conflict led to one of the largest planning enforcement operations the UK has ever seen. So we're still in chapter 3, living on the land or water, parking up, planning reality, and we'll do case study Dale Farm.